Welcome, everyone, to a special edition of Hunt the Habitat with Ann Jandernaugh. And my name is Steve Blazer. This is a YouTube edition of Hunt the Habitat. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, my background has quite a bit of farming in it. We were farming close to right around 2,000 acres at the time, and also dealing with a lot of custom work, planting, harvesting. We ran some pretty good size equipment. And when you're farming, you're always looking at the weather. You're always looking at the soil. You feel like you almost plan your life around it. When I started guiding, I started looking at the weather very closely. And a lot of the things that I learned from farming in relationships to soil and relationships to yields that you might see vary within a certain field or any field, it all came back down to soils. And we talked about the relationship with soils and regeneration of aspen and even where you want to shift when it's too dry. So when I look at these maps, and if I was taking a trip like Steve is out to Montana, I'd be looking at some background history as well as what it is right now, why the chicks are young, and what led up from winter into the spring and spring into the summer here. And we know that, overall, the conditions in some areas of the country have been rather drastic. And some of them are into like almost a 2-year drought situation, while other areas aren't. And I think knowing this ahead of time is really important. And there's different tools that I use to look at, if I'm taking a trip even myself, what am I getting into? What part of the state do I not want to go to? Or do I even want to go to that state? A little bit of planning is worth a heck of a lot, because you'd feel pretty bad to get out there and find out you're trying to hunt in a place that just had a major drought and it was the third year. It won't bode very well for you to have a successful hunt. Yeah. So this is what we're doing. We're looking at a map that is the US Drought Monitor Map. The map was released July 6, 2023. And you'll see the map. You'll see some of the other areas of the country. And down here, it has the intensity impacts. If it's no color, that's good. And then you can see how light yellow is abnormally dry, all the way down to, extreme, exceptional drought or no data. But then you got these lines, and these lines here are saying that there's been an impact, like for up here, up in the northwest. You can see the line here coming around here. So this area right through here is like a U. That area is starting to get impacted in those other areas in the northern part of Idaho. And you got a really bad drought happening right here in Kansas, Nebraska, a little bit of it going up into the southeast part of South Dakota, and then starting to creep over Missouri. What they're saying to you is, hey, folks, watch this area. It's starting to change. And so you can look at that, and then S is like a short term. L is long term. And what I'm typically concerned about, is it a short term? Is it a long term? And this is right here is the highlight saying, hey, watch this area. And if there's no data, it's gray. So, like I said, you can see it highlight the different areas as you go around here. And then all you have to do is click on it. It gives the information. Here's your color chart. And just click on the state. And there you have Montana. So you can see here in the eastern part of Montana, the central east, it's nothing going on. Everything's normal. Just getting a slight impact here up by the Canadian border and bordering North Dakota, right in here. And you're getting a slight impact there. Nothing drastic or anything really to be too worried about. I would say you're starting, if you had corn, you'd be starting to see the corn just slightly curl. It gets enough dew in the morning, so it's still looking pretty decent. Then when you're done with this part here, go use your back button and go back to this and go to the maps, and we can compare the last 2 weeks. And you can see this here. So you can see how things are slowly changing. Over here, you can see there were some issues going on in southern Wisconsin a week ago. And you can look at presently, it's gone. So obviously we received rain. the issues here that you were looking at in Montana, they're pretty much the same. So they haven't really gotten any more rain there. If anything, you can see Minnesota was worse here. Minnesota's lost some of it up here a little bit. So that's what you can do. And then if you want to go to Map Archive, then this is where you can set a date.
What's the process that we should walk through as we consider where we want to hunt, and how far back should we be looking?
I think probably 3 years is more than enough. So like if we go to 2021, May 4th, they were in a drought. It was dry in May. And then if you want to see what it was in 2022, May 3rd, not quite as bad. There'd be moisture. Okay. There'd be a little more bugs. That's what you're thinking about, really. How much bugs are available in the future for those young chicks?
Okay. And is May really the primary month we should be most concerned?
You're going to start with May, look at June and July in there. Some people would want to start possibly if they're hunting farther south, they'd start in April down here. Because planting starts from the south and works up. And harvesting starts from the north and works down.
We're trying to rule out places, really, while we're looking at this. And what we don't want to see is the same place that's been under stress 2-3 years in a row.
Correct. And in what you're looking for here, when you're thinking about May, or if you're thinking about, let's just go back to April 5th. Let's just say they were born April 5th. What's there for bugs? When it's that dry, there isn't going to be bugs. And that's part of what they need for protein. That's one of the things you got to think about. So then you look at April 5th. You went to May 3rd here. A little bit less. There's been a little bit of rain. Go to June 7th. Getting a little bit better. We're getting a little bit of rain. Go to July 5th. Now it's backing off right there. So basically it got a little bit better as the summer progressed. It became more of a normal situation. So you know what 22 was, and if you need to go back farther or want to go back farther, you can go back all the way to 2020, and you can actually go all the way, if you wanted to 2000. I don't think you want to go that far. But there is just so much data here. So think about the chicks and the food they need in the beginning, and the moisture that they get off the plants, and the bugs that they need for development of flight feathers. So you can go back 3 years and look at the area and say, okay, this is really dry here. It's so dry, like what you were mentioning, there's no mosquitoes. Look at what the birds need. And that's going to dictate to you really how well the chicks can survive and develop, and how big of a brood will be carried over into the fall.
But again, what we don't want to see is 2-3 years in a row where it's just getting hammered.
Right. And that's an issue. I mean, if you get into, let me find it here. Let's just look at October 25th. See Nebraska, see Kansas right here. This is a problem. This is serious right here. And then you get into October. We're not to October, but let's just go to June. Yeah. It's backed off. We've got some rain, but look at this. This is the same, almost identical band.
We saw it in 22, and here we are in 23, and we're seeing exactly the same thing.
One of the things I do, typically we'll walk right into a grain elevator, start talking about crops and grains, and everyone looks at me like, where the hell did you come from?
They don't know you very well.
No, it'll be that. But then all of a sudden you've got, like, the farmers are coming in, and next thing you know, you got a coffee clutch going on, and, and you're getting handed a cup of coffee, and I'll be asking about yields and everything, and what they're seeing, and next thing you know, because my background also has farming in it quite extensively, I can relate to what they're going through, and I can relate to cattle prices because I used to raise cattle. I'll tell you what, if you call a grain elevator in the area, ask them about that type of stuff, you'd be surprised the amount of information you might get. Just like you're talking about grasshoppers. Call a grain elevator, they're going to tell you what the issues are. If the yields are off, then it was either too wet or too dry. If it's a bumper crop, then more than likely the chicks were just fine. You're going to have a good yield typically with the chicks. It goes hand in hand. Because
that's a great idea too.
Yeah, I mean that's just how it works. I mean, you got a good crop, 9 times out of 10 you should have a good crop of chicks. Those things are very interesting. When you see stuff like this right in here, they're setting up for a nice crop this year, right through here. And that's really important. So this is just one of the pages that I look at and say, okay, this is what I go to and I look at. And I really use the drought monitor more for the western states than I do for here in the Midwest and out east, because the woods are different than a cornfield. A cornfield only has a shade that the crop can provide, whereas a drought in the woods and think of the tap roots. The tap roots on a corn, it's very shallow, whereas the tap root on aspens is going way down. So it's picking up moisture reserves from way farther down. So, if you're starting to see leaves fall off the aspen trees in August, you have a problem there. But typically, the birds can shift down by the moist areas, down by the bogs, down by lower elevations that still are shaded. So they're not getting drained of their moisture. As in a cornfield, once that corn starts curling, all the sunlight is going right between the rows and hitting the root and even draining the soil that much more. It's a difference in canopy height and structure.
Right. And just to take a step back for a minute, lest the people in Nebraska get angry with us. Okay, can you click Nebraska?
Sure. Okay, I gotta get back to the right map. Let me back up again. Here we are. So you have to be on this map right here, where it talks about map release. So here's this. Come on. Well, and haze down here is probably getting hammered down in here. When you're dealing with this, you want to make some phone calls, and you got to find out how long has it been in this type of situation. That means you need to go back and look at Kansas. We'll go back in here. Let's see here. So let's look at it last year. Not bad, not bad. It backed off. And then let's go into August. Still not bad. So, I mean, and then if you want to, sort of see if you say, well, let's just go back to be safe. Let's go back. So this is what a drought map can do for you. And there's a comparison slider that you can do here. You can set up dates here. And we could go, let's fix this one here. So here we are. So you go here. There you are. You can really start to narrow it and get fine-tune it. So you can see right where the slider is right now, there was really no drought last year, but then this year there is. So lots of information to go dig through. I would highly suggest that if you have something in question and you're going to go to Kansas and you're looking at it now, call and find out how much your yields are off, and then talk to some biologists. But there's a lot of information here.
And just get comfortable with them, because, again, we all invest a great deal of time and money. A lot of us, it's one trip a year. Okay, it's our, we get to use a certain amount of our vacation to make this trip. And you want to just identify problem areas. All right. Fantastic. And I am personally definitely going to be using these tools. Sometime in the next month now, we're going to have to start kind of cementing where we are going to go. A couple buddies and I are going to head out to Montana and we're going to use these tools. This is fantastic, and Ann, thank you very much.
No problem at all.
Thank you for watching this, and we'll have more to come. And everybody remember to hunt the habitat.